is a residential deadbolt lock. As with the commercial locks we've seen, the idea is the same, to get our K tool, our R tool, or the officer's tool behind the lock and pry. Now, unlike the mortise lock, while you're trying to zip the lock cylinder through the threads in the lock cartridge, here we're attempting to break the two screws holding the lock in place. Once we remove that lock and stem, we now manipulate the mechanism with our key tool. Now again, we'll go into the field and we'll show a couple different methods for forcing a residential deadbolt. So again, the idea here is to slip the K tool or the R tool over the deadbolt. Then we're going to insert the adze of the Halligan and we're going to lever up to remove that bolt. Now if the deadbolt is particularly high on the door, it may be easier to go from the bottom and lever down just because of your reach. Since I'm tall, however, I'm going to go ahead and go from the top. Then I'm going to call on my axe. He's going to give it a few taps into place to get a good bite in. Hit, hit, hit. Okay. Now I'm going to have my axe clear out of my way and I'm going to lever up to remove that deadbolt. And there we've got the deadbolt captured in place. And we're ready to manipulate that lock. Now you'll find some folks prefer to lever down as opposed to levering up. Now the reason I prefer to lever up as opposed to down is because you see we've got the lock cylinder captured in the bottom part of the tool right here. Now if I lever up, I'm using the top edge of the tool as my fulcrum, which gives me a long lever arm between my fulcrum and the lock cylinder that we're trying to break off. If I were to lever down, then I'm going to be using the bottom of the tool as a fulcrum. And that's going to give me a very short lever arm between my fulcrum and my lock cylinder. So I'm just going to get a little bit more mechanical advantage by levering up or towards the Halligan. Whether it's this direction, or if the entire assembly is turned upside down, this direction. Okay, now we're going to go for our deadbolt using an alternate method. We're going to use the O tool or the officer's tool. And for this, since the fork isn't quite wide enough to get a really good bite on the deadbolt, what we're trying to do in this case is actually get behind it. So you need to go with your tool at an angle, sort of angled towards the door. Now I'll call on my axe. Hit, hit, hold. Okay, now I'm going to have him orient. Since this is a weak wood door, I don't want to just push the tool up through the door and break apart the surface. So I'm going to use the axe as my lever point. Now we've got our hole where we can go in and operate the mechanism with our key tool. Now there is an even less damaging method for forcing a residential deadbolt that still allows the building to be somewhat secured when the call is over. Here we pry the deadbolt loose as opposed to all the way off, then slip the screwdriver or key tool behind the lock to operate the bolt slider.